He bought his first property at just 19 years old, and he retired at 24, and now he owns over 50 properties, and he is here tonight. I also was just looking on Facebook, and it was like 3 days ago or something. I don't know how you got back so fast. This is what he has on Facebook. This is the level that Mike is at. Now you're 27, right? 27. This is his Facebook post. It's copied it. I'm just going to tell everybody what he posted here.
That's fine.
We came, we saw, we loved the numbers, so we bought a mansion castle in Orlando. 5 minutes to Disney, basically in a reunion Kissimmee resort. 7-bedroom, 8-bathroom beauty, has it all. And he goes on to explain it. The pictures were absolutely amazing, and I am very inspired by you, Mike, and I'm sure everybody will be looking forward to your presentation. Let's give Mike a round of applause.
Hey everyone, I'm Mike Rosehart. Thank you for having me. So I'll talk a little bit about where I came from, where I am today, and then walk through sort of some key takeaways or key learnings I've had over the last 8 years or so since I started investing in real estate at 19. Today I'm 27. So this is my reflection on my journey to FIRE. So it's a rags to riches story, grinding to freedom, and then giving it everything you've got. So this is me. I'm actually live right now on my YouTube channel. For those that don't know about me, go on YouTube and check me out. I got 23,000 subscribers on YouTube. About 2 years ago, I started a channel. On Instagram, we have 15,000 followers. I've been sharing a ton of free content about investing in real estate. So I think that's part of how I was kind of discovered, was I just started sharing my journey and what I was doing and helping people learn how to invest in real estate for free. So I didn't have any courses to sell or any books, but I would go on and film myself with a camera and say, hey, just closed on this property, did this, did that. 3 points I think that I've noticed across every millionaire I've ever talked to, every multi-millionaire I've ever talked to. There's 3 key ingredients to building wealth. And it's understanding that you need to spend less than you earn, you need to find strategies to make more money, you have to be smart with the money that you have. So you have to maximize the difference. Those are the 3 core levers or tenets of becoming wealthy. And at the end of the day, everything I talk about on my channel, everything I could ever tell you, falls into one of those 3 categories. So I'm 27, I'm a self-made multimillionaire. I graduated from the Richard Ivey School of Business. That was in 2010 to 2014. I graduated. 8 years investing in real estate, got my first property at 19, convinced the banks while I was 19, finishing my second year, that they should lend me a mortgage and that I should be able to put together my first deal. I did that and I fixed it up and renovated it and learned how to invest in real estate the hard way because I didn't know of any networking groups. There was nothing online in early 2011, 2012. So I just sort of learned through the School of Hard Knocks, and I share a lot of that now today, having failed a lot. And through failure, I've had a lot of success. So I've acquired, this PowerPoint's a little bit old, about 70 properties in total. The lion's share of those properties in the last, year and a half to 2 years. So we popped off and a partner and I bought about 50 properties with investors. I did my first 17 deals without raising venture capital. I figured out how to convince the A-lender banks to continue to lend me mortgage after mortgage after mortgage, and I found loopholes. Not at first. My first and second rental property, I'm going to get into in a bit here, weren't as successful, but through hearing a lot of no's, through a lot of failures, I learned how to overcome them. And I don't have an attitude that allows me to give up, so I just keep pushing through until I find a solution. I grew up in a small city, I don't know, Sarnia, Ontario. I grew up just outside of Sarnia. Single mom, 2 kids. My dad left when I was young, so I kind of grew up not having a lot of money. She worked at a call center, so we had kind of minimum wage earnings. And I realized early on that money was a really important lubricant to having a good life. And I realized how important that was to basically everything. But then once I acquired wealth, and I got to a point where I am today, where I have several $1 million, I realized that money is not that important anymore. And so in the beginning of your journey, it's really, really important. But then as you elevate throughout the journey to FIRE and then beyond, you find that it's not so much about the money, but more about gratification, more about like building who you are as a person and then helping other people to kind of reach that as well. So that's what I derive a lot of pleasure from these days. I'll go back really quick. I have two amazing daughters, Emma and Ariel, and I have an amazing wife of 11 years this November. We've been together since high school. So when I went off at 17 to Western University, she came along with me, and she invested in me and took a chance on me, and it's been going well ever since. I'm so thankful for her support the whole way. I will quickly point out before on this slide, you can see the pictures there. That is the Orlando mansion that we picked up while we were in Orlando there. There's the front of it, the back pool, the waterfall grotto, and the third floor with views to Disney. So this kind of just happened by mistake. I was looking at properties because it's something I like to do for fun. I was in Orlando, and I'm like, I'm pretty bored. We should go look at some properties. Let's go look at some mansions. And I got a hold of some numbers, some of the Airbnb luxury numbers, and I was like, wow. I looked at one property. This property is generating $400,000 in revenue. I went, what? This $1.2 million house is generating $400,000 a year on Airbnb consistently? Show me the numbers. And I saw the numbers, and we saw the numbers, and we're going to expand to the U.S. So that's what's been up recently. I kind of talked about this a little bit, but in the beginning of your journey, it's really, really important to understand, and this is what I discovered at 17 when I found the FIRE movement. I didn't found it, but I found it on the internet. And one of the core tenets was this idea that you have to delay gratification. And so I subscribed to that at a really young age, and I'm living proof that if you start something and you commit your mind to it, doesn't matter what age you are, you could be 40 right now, you could be 50, then in about 7 years, you could transform your life. So anyone can retire in about 5 to 7 years with or without an aggressive real estate investing strategy. So you don't necessarily need to be as aggressive as I was. Again, I retired in 2017, February, for my day job as an analyst in consulting. I'm going to get to that in a sec here. I did that without, one of my slides, where is it? There it is. You guys will see my timeline here. Without any real, I don't know, I didn't have anything special. I didn't have anything that made me really special. And that's the point I kind of want to make here, is that like, maybe I'm a little bit smart, maybe I'm a little bit more hardworking than the average person, but there's nothing really special about me that allowed me to succeed. And anyone could take exactly what I did and replicate it. And that's sort of the point that I want to make, is that I was just working as an analyst, and then after work, I would go chase real estate deals, right? I would go chase this idea that I can invest my time at an early age, and it would compound, and it would grow. And then my money would compound, and it would grow in such amazing ways. And I want to just jump back real quick to this slide, because I had a mindset shift when I was 17 in my dorm rooms at Western. I went off to university. And about the passive income spectrum, right? I talked to probably a dozen really successful partners and investors and just people who were like just killing it in their job, like top lawyers and accountants and things like that, when I was 17 as part of a project in my first year of university. And they were all like amazingly successful. But one underlying theme I noticed was a little bit of unhappiness for those folks who are in that top level position. There seemed to be a lot of divorce, a higher rate than normal. There seemed to be a lot of like dissatisfaction. A lot of people were in debt up to their eyeballs. And that, like when I poked deep, and I thought, well, there's got to be something here that's more fulfilling than just grinding to a career, right? Just grinding to become a CEO or just hustling, that sort of thing. So I sort of discovered this spectrum of passive income. That was when I first discovered this idea of passive income, which we all kind of take for granted nowadays. But that was sort of what I drew when I was like 17. And it was like this idea that I knew I had to hustle. I had to create an active job where I had to do something to earn money. I had to trade my time for money. And then eventually I could grow that to a point where I could outsource and I get someone else to go ahead and do that. And then eventually I could partner with people and be passive, and there's like lending, and then there's the ultimate, which is dividends, and it requires the least amount of energy or effort. So I was trying to get to the top of the pyramid, and I was finding I really enjoy being kind of actually in the middle of the pyramid. I enjoy mentorship. I have a couple of mentees that live in the basement of my 8-bedroom house. I have a duplex. I live in a house hack to this day. And one of them just, again, providing free value. He came up to me and said, hey, can I just provide some free value for you? I was like, yes, you can. He moved from Toronto, him and another guy from Sudbury. They moved into my house and just started helping me. Help me renovate my properties, just follow me along. He's like, hey, can I just drive you to showings? Can I just take you around and show you things? And whatever, just add value any way that I can. And I accepted. And today, one of them, after a year, already has almost $3 million in real estate under contract, going from Home Depot employee to now having like almost $3 million in real estate. Watching him transform over the last year has been amazing, and one of the most fulfilling things that I've done in the last year. One of the other key learnings I had around 18 or 19 was this idea of leverage. And it wasn't just about money, it was about leveraging knowledge. So you could learn things, you could leverage that knowledge, other people's knowledge, your own knowledge. You could use marketing to reach a greater audience and have much more impact. You could leverage your network by going to meetings like this, you can meet people. And I undervalued this one a lot. It's one of my greatest failures. I didn't go to networking groups until I was probably 22 or 23. I waited until I had 3 or 4 properties because I felt like I had nothing to add. So I just didn't go out, I just stayed in my room. And that was a mistake. Like, you should be out here networking with people, because you know what? Someone has a solution to your problem. And if you're out there sharing, maybe your problem is someone else's solution, right? So that's something huge, big takeaway. And then leveraging time, really important. Be efficient with your time. Utilize your time well. Instead of spending 8 hours watching Netflix, spend a few hours investing in your future, looking at maybe real estate deals or building high-value skills. And the last is systems and technologies. A couple of years ago, I did a video about that. So, yeah, my journey. So at 19, I was buying my first property. I knew nothing about real estate investing. Bought this property for a couple $100,000 in London, Ontario, where I currently live. And I just started fixing up the basement, added bedrooms, put a little apartment in there, and through a year of renovating while I went to school, I learned how to house hack, which is the idea that you live in a property and you have another unit or some extra bedrooms you can rent out, and that other unit pays your mortgage and you can live for free. And we've house hacked since 19, and that's been a cornerstone of our, budgeting plan that allowed us to reach FIRE so early, is because we didn't have any housing expenses for the last 8 years. Another thing is, when I started working as an analyst, I acquired my second property, in the start of my journey, I was like, I'm going to acquire one property, and then maybe another property in a few years, and another property a few years after that. But I was also doing stock investing at the same time, and I looked at my returns for my stock portfolio, and I'm an Ivy Finance grad, and I looked at, so I would say I'm above average in my understanding of, financial analysis. And I looked at my rental property, which I spent, very little time on. It was just like rented to students. I just collected rental income. And I was like, geez, I was spending way more time looking at my stock portfolio and getting a much worse return than I was from real estate. And I was like, well, why is that? Again, I went back to my core principles of leverage. I was like, geez, I put 20% down this property. I'm levered 5 to 1. My return on asset is about 10%. My cost of debt is about 3%. There's a 7% spread that time, and it's levered 5 to 1. So every dollar I invested in real estate produced me a spread of 7% times 5. So I was getting 30 to 40% minimum without any appreciation. This is factoring in a 0 appreciation rate, which, if you guys know, in London in the last 3 years, we've all done really well in appreciation. But I didn't plan for that when I was investing, and I sort of discovered that around property too, and I'm like, geez, I need to stop investing in stocks, stop wasting my time with that, and double down on real estate. It's the only asset class that I knew of that you could borrow 5 to 1 at such a cheap cost of debt. If you borrow for stocks, you'll never get more than like a 2 to 1 leverage typically, unless you're ultra wealthy, and it'll be at a 7 or 8% cost of debt. With real estate, you can borrow at like 2.5%, 3%. There was a point, I remember in like 2014 or 2015 when I built my first house, and I think we borrowed 1.84% discounted 2-year fixed. Money was almost free at some points. It was just wild. And so I doubled down on that. I was like, this is amazing. I was telling everyone on Facebook, I was telling all my friends, I'm like, guys, you need to be investing in real estate. It's the best thing ever. Because you can go borrow millions of dollars, the bank's money, at 2 or 3%, and invest that in assets that have an 8 to 10 cap rate if you know how to find them and know how to make a deal into a deal, potentially by adding units or things like that. And so I did that, and I made that my life mission from like 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, and then 2017, I acquired like 15 or so properties, and I'm like, geez, I'm making a lot more from my cash flow every month than I'm making from my job as a manager in consulting. And I've been promoted from analyst to senior analyst to manager. I was still making a lot more in real estate just from cash flow. Forget the mortgage pay down, forget the appreciation upside, forget the value add of doing a renovation for $20,000 and unlocking another $20,000 in the property or $30,000 in the property. And so I quit my job and became a full-time real estate investor in 2017. Actually, that's not true. I quit my job, played a lot of video games for a while, spent a lot of time with my first daughter, and watched a lot of movies, hung with a lot of friends. And then I was like, I'm bored, and I need to go back to what I love, which is looking at properties. And I did that. And then in 2018, we acquired 50 buildings. And so that was a really, really fun experience. It was a lot of work. It kind of came about out of a Facebook post I made just to like friends. And a friend of mine reached out and was like, he went to Ivy with me and his parents had a little bit of money. And he said, man, what you're doing in London, Ontario looks amazing. You quit your job and you've been able to build this huge portfolio all by yourself using bank money. Do you think I could do the same thing? Yeah, I think you can probably do exactly what I'm doing. The market hasn't changed that much. For the record, London, Ontario from 2012 to 2017, there was almost no appreciation. It was like less than inflation. So I was like, yeah, this is totally possible. Not much has really changed. And then the market blew up in 2017 in London, just at the time we started to buy. I don't know if it was because guys like myself and Matt McKeever with our YouTube channels, I don't know if it's because we were talking about all this stuff, we were sharing all this stuff in London, but investors started pouring in, and I started doing joint venture partnerships. He was my first, and then I just started sharing the results I was getting. I was buying properties for 200 grand, they're worth 350 because markets were hot, things were appreciating, we were doing a lot of duplex conversions and stuff like that. I made investors a lot of money, and then they talked about the fact that I made a lot of money. And I levered, the thing with joint venture partnerships and how we got $20 million in real estate in such a short amount of time is understanding that money isn't the most important thing in the deal. And that was a hard thing for me to understand, having saved and worked so hard for all of my deals by myself, just my wife and I. But I realized there's kind of three components, right, to every real estate transaction, right? There's like the money part of it, the financing. There's the management part, which is construction, property management, and all the active stuff you have to do. And then there's the deal itself, which most people don't give enough credit, because a good deal is the most important thing of all three. If you have two of the three, the third one always comes automatically. If you have a good enough deal, and you have the expertise and the proven track record to manage it, the money comes on its own. Literally in the post, I'll have a deal gone in like minutes. I put it on Kijiji, it'd be gone, right? And people would check you out, and then I found that it was really easy to raise money that way. I didn't really go out and ask for it. I didn't do any like paid advertising that way. Just sort of through word of mouth, we have acquired quite a few units. So we got about 60 buildings at the time, it's a bit more now, 110 units, 350 bedrooms, and a 7-figure rent roll in such short order. And I learned a lot through that too, through scaling a business. It was not what I wanted it to be. And so I'm no longer doing joint venture partnerships. I just help my mentees and my mentor, like I'm the mentor to my mentees and we joint venture that way. But it grew way too fast. Way too quickly, and so I'm a big fan of saying, slow down, make sure your systems are all ready, and if you really do want to do this and make it a huge business, you can do it, but just take caution as you do it. It took me out of retirement, is the way I'll put it. I retired, and it took me out of retirement, even just servicing, even though we had employees, even though I had people and companies we were partnering with that were helping us get through the workload, it was a lot, and so I will share that one tidbit as well. The next thing is creative financing. Is another key takeaway that I discovered when I started joint venture partnering. And I discovered that money is everywhere, and it's easy to get if you can figure out how to structure the right, terms for that deal. So vendor takebacks were a big thing I started figuring out. They were really easy to do. There was a lot of private sellers, less so now, more so then. There's a lot of wholesalers in my market now that are knocking doors, so it's getting harder and harder. But there was a time where I could go knock doors on a Saturday with a friend, and we'd have a property under contract just in one afternoon of like 6 or 7 hours of knocking doors. Or, I'd go on Kijiji and I would pick up like 20 for sale privately, and by the end of the weekend, I'd met with like 5 or 6 of them, and 2 of them wanted to do vendor takebacks, right? So there are a lot of opportunities that way where you can structure things. Some people are happy with 3 or 4% interest-only payments on their vendor take-back situation. There are a lot of really cool scenarios you can do where you could spread out their capital gain over a longer period of time. So you can get super flexible, and sometimes you give them the price they want, which is way more than you want to pay for the property, but you get it back in terms like really good vendor take-back mortgage rates or things like that. So that was cool. And then private lenders are something I discovered too. I really had only worked with a lender financing for the most part, and other friends and investors, A lenders. So I discovered private financing was an easy way to close deals quickly, so that was something we learned that was quite key. And I guess what I want to share is, with this slide, is the idea that when you're investing in real estate, it's an active business. And I thought it was passive when I first started investing in real estate, but for the most part, it's quite active unless you're just doing like lending. When you go to invest in real estate and you go to invest in properties, a key consideration should be, in my opinion, the level of return on time, return on energy, return on equity, as opposed to just the raw return. You gotta think about things like, what are my goals? Like, are you okay having student rentals, for instance? Are you okay having calls from students? Are you okay with C level or class properties where the tenants are going to have a lot more damage to your units? You're gonna have a lot more stress and drama associated with that unit. And so that's a big consideration, I think, when you start investing and building your strategy. It's a big one to think about. And then when you're building your plan of where you want to go and what you want to do with your real estate investing journey, make sure you think, what is your why? And find out what that why is. And for me, it was about finding out how to elevate from poverty, how to elevate from how I grew up, and how to find a way to provide a better life for my family and provide a level of safety and comfort that only comes from having that level of passive income, right? And I'll be honest, it was driven by the fact that I couldn't find a job that I loved. I worked at KPMG in accounting, I worked in some other places as well, and I just didn't like any job I never had. I worked at a bank teller and a bunch of other jobs. So I was like, geez, what I really want is to not have to work. And so that was my biggest drive, was like the need to not have to work. And in that, I found what I loved to do, which was teach people, mentor, and I love looking at properties. So that's sort of what I do today. And yeah, I just have a lot of fun with it. It's one of my favorite things. I recommend, if you're trying to find out what it is you want to be doing, if you're here, you're like, I have 5 properties, do I want to get 5 more? Do I want to sell? Do I have 1 property? Do I want to go down this road? And how do I want to do it? For me, I found the intersection of mastery, autonomy, and purpose to be the most important pieces of the puzzle. Mastery is the idea that you should do something that you have mastery over. Autonomy is the idea that you have control in the way that you do what you do. And third thing is purpose. Are you meant to be doing that with your life? So maybe you're really good at real estate investing, like I happen to have been really, really good at creating value in properties, but I didn't love it. I didn't like the construction, I like the management pieces of it. What are you meant to be doing? You find the intersection of those 3 things and you'll love your life. And you'll live the fire life you've always wanted to live. And that's the big thing right there. If it's okay, I'll open up for question and answers.
Absolutely.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Usually in these things, when I start my presentation, I flip back and people have questions, they want to zoom in. Feel free to ask anything you'd like. I'm an open book. No questions, there's one, all right.
You mentioned the door-to-door part of it. Can you just elaborate a little bit, like maybe, I don't know, 2 minutes on the whole process? You knock on a door, you have a pitch like that.
Sure, yeah. I didn't do a ton of door-to-door, but for a while there was a small segment we were doing a lot of that.
Houses door-to-door.
Pardon me?
You were able to close a deal door-to-door, just knocking on a door.
I mean, through multiple appointments, yes, but definitely that was how we generated the leads, was going door-to-door. This was a time when no one was doing flyers and no one was going around door-to-door. We just went around and talked to people and said, hey, where are you at currently with your property? Are you looking to downsize, to upsize? Hey, I can help with that. Are you a tenant? What's your landlord's number? So a lot of it was just going by and just getting information. So Buddy and I just go out and buy and get information, and then we come back and be more targeted with our approach. So for the most part, it was just dropping flyers and just getting basic information, and then from there, niching down and finding out how to appeal to your seller. One of the things that I guess it was a limiting belief of mine initially, that I no longer have, was this idea that price was the most important thing. And even when people say price is their most important thing, it almost never is. I'll give you an example. I had a deal a while back, a couple of years ago, where I sat down with a couple and they had some issues with hoarding and other things like that, and they were actually moving. And I just built rapport from day one. The minute I walked in, I tried to be understanding and sympathetic of their situation. There was another person who was offering at the same time as me, who had also knocked door, and they were a realtor. I wasn't a realtor yet at this point. I just became a realtor about a year ago. We have our own brokerage, but again, I mostly just service myself. But at the time, I went in there and I built a rapport, and the other realtor came in and just offered a price. It was like, this is the price, no conditions, done, and I walked out. And they weren't sure what to do with that. They were looking to sell their house, and so I sat down with them and found a way to, I guess, maneuver through the obstacles they had. So for one, they had a lot of stuff they had to get rid of, a lot of stuff they had to emotionally deal with. And so we sat with them for days, going through their stuff as part of the offer, right? I'll help you camp this whole property. I'll help you move your stuff. We'll get a moving truck. I'll hire a guy who will help you move to your new place. They weren't sure where they're going to move to. They had to sell for financial reasons, but hey, I'm going to help you find a new place. We went and showed them places to rent. right? So these types of things add a ton of value. We got it under contract for a lot less. And she looked me in the eyes and shook my hand and said, we went with your offer over their offer because you were human to us. You showed us that piece that we needed to see that helped us through this transition of leaving our home we've been in for 15 years. And so that was a big piece that I sort of discovered, was that it's more about the structure of the deal than it is about the price. And I thought it was more about price when I went into this. I was thinking like everyone's just thinking about this bottom dollar. But even if someone's bottom dollar can be maneuvered, if you can find a way to save them on their taxes, for instance, right? Or you can structure a creative situation, right? So those types of things with the financing structure or the conditions in your offer that you can throw in there, that can be huge, right, to changing their decision. This one first, then that question. Hi.
Can you talk more about how you convinced your first lender at the age of 19 to lend you money?
Yeah, it's a good story. So I was 18, I tried to buy a property, and everyone said no. Oh, sorry. The question was, how at 19 did you buy your first property? How did you convince someone to lend you the money to buy your first property? So I gotta think about this. I don't really have a good refined answer for you, but I guess I built my credit up, I guess, about a year and a half. I was 19 and a little bit, so about a year and a half since I had my credit card on day one when I turned 18. I had 2 credit cards actually that I established credit score. Because at 18 I went to the bank and said, hey, could I buy a property? I would love to become a property owner. And they said no, like go away, you have no credit score and you have no money. But at 19, I built the credit score up and I've been looking at properties, and I went to actually another bank at the time to get a student line of credit for, I guess the Richard Ivey School of Business has a great financing package out of TD Bank and Bank of Montreal, places like that, where you get $70,000 or $80,000 student lines of credits to fund your education. And I happened to work full time while I went to university. So I worked 33 hours a week the whole time I was through university full time. And that's just, that might be a lot of course, that was a lot of load, I guess, with my courses, but I made it work. And so I had income actually at the time, not a lot, maybe about $27,000 a year or so. And I also had scholarships. So in my last year of high school, I decided I wanted to change my life. I didn't want to go to college. I was thinking about the apprenticeship. I was thinking about plumbing, electrician. I was like, man, those guys make great money. That'd be a great way to elevate from our current situation. But then Richard Ivey School of Business came to my high school when I was 17 and pitched this idea that I could become like an executive or something great. And so I just cranked my grades way up from like an 80 average to 95. And so I got a really good scholarship to Western, which helped. My tuition was pretty much free. I just had to pay my living costs and my books and things like that, extracurriculars and things. So they actually counted. I found a lender who counted my scholarship and bursary income as well as my part-time job, as well as my other part-time job. So it looked like I was almost working full-time. And they counted my girlfriend at the time, now wife, they counted her income as well. And we used the student line of credit to put the deal together. So a lot of that kind of came together just in the right way. CIBC said no, TD said no, Scotia said no, a credit union said no, but then BMO took a chance. So they were the first lender, and I still bank them to this day, even though they're not the most technically savvy and their offer goes down all the time. I'm loyal to them because of that. And another cool thing about like Bank of Montreal, just like randomly throw that out there, is they let you have 20 bank accounts under one lead account for free. So if you're joint venture partnering, set up a bank account for each property and run that with your partner, and everything runs through there. And at the end of the year, I just Control P my statements, and all my expenses and all my income is right there. It's a free bookkeeping ledger, basically, by printing my statement out. So definitely open a bank account. Pro tip, if you're doing joint venture partnerships, open a separate bank account for each property. Don't do multiple properties in one account. Get really messy. And just from like a bookkeeping perspective, if you're trying to up your systems game, that's a great way to do it. So I at one point had like 60 bank accounts going, but I had a ledger on Excel and I could figure out which account was which property. That was very helpful though in trying to discern where rents were going and expenses and things like that. So. You had a question in the middle.
Yeah, so I want to know about your using house hacking, you said. How long did you use that strategy for? And with a wife, girlfriend, and everything, like how did it work? Did you move every single time into the house? And like how did that situation play out for how many years?
Yeah, that's a great question. House hacking is a fantastic way to reach financial independence and retire early. It allows your expenses to go way down, and it allows you to save way faster. So it's like a double punch. You need a lot less to retire, you can save that amount that you need a lot quicker. So I highly recommend finding a way to find a soundproofed duplex or triplex or something to that effect. My wife was she's my girlfriend at the time, she was very apprehensive about us renting out rooms in the house that we bought together. I think the key thing in any negotiation or in any convincing strategy is to find what they value, right? So I found what my girlfriend valued, and in this case it was like she wanted to have kids at a young age and it was important to her. And I was like, hey, I know you want to be there for our kids. If we follow this strategy, we bring in, roommates. It was actually a lower basement apartment, and we suffer through that little bit of inconvenience. We get to be mortgage free effectively from like today onwards. We get to live for free, and the payoff is going to be huge. So I just sold like the carrot as opposed to the negatives. I was always focused on the positives. But I'm a super understanding partner, and that's been part of my success, to be honest. Is she's super supportive. If I'm out there till like 1 in the morning, and a lot of nights was out till 1 or 2 in the morning when people didn't show up and units had to be rented for the first, and then I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to work again, day in, day out, right? So that grind, you need a really supportive partner, and so it's how do you get your partner on board with that is the real question. And I guess, like, how did I house hack over the time? I guess it started with renting out rooms. She grew tired of that in 2014, and we sold our house and bought another house, and I've been duplexing ever since. So converting properties into duplex. Usually I move in, live in the bungalow, 3 bedrooms in the main floor, 2 bedrooms in the basement, sort of rent it out that way. She was sold on the idea that it covers our mortgage and we can live for free. That was really the big selling piece, I think, in a lot of ways. And we rewarded ourselves with like a trip, things like that. It's like, hey, if we go through this sacrifice, let's reward ourselves with this thing or that thing. So that's a big one, right? Just understanding that it's going to change your life in a big way. And yeah, it's hard to convince a partner, I suppose, at first to get accustomed to that idea, but I think if you do it right and you duplex properly, or even secondary dwelling units, they're fantastic in Ontario. Like pretty much anywhere you can throw, most municipalities are for them, so they're a great way. You can, put smoke alarms in and 1/2-inch drywall passes in London, for instance. Like there's some crazy stuff that you can do now that allows you to have a secondary unit. And even if you don't make it all legal, you can just like rent out 2 rooms in your basement, have a little kitchenette, and you have them have a separate space. That will allow you to live for free. So I'm a big proponent of it. How do you convince your partner? It depends on your partner. Find out. I did a video actually on my YouTube channel, shameless plug. Check it out, it's all free stuff there. But I did a video a while back on how to convince your partner to get on board with that. So just type my name into YouTube, you can find that video and watch that. It's a longer, I can't go on for 15 minutes, but the video can. So that's a good question. Any other questions? Back there.
I mean, as a, you probably started a little younger than most people, at least being hungry for money or starting to really understand. Is there sort of something, like, I've got 2 daughters, 12
Yeah.
and 14, and
Top babies.
some early, right? So, yeah.
So I think I understood your question. It's like about starting early,
Yeah.
and the piece of it being that how do you convince them to start early, I guess, is the
And understand money and.
okay. Did a video on that too on my YouTube channel. I did about how to teach your kids about money. It's so hard because I have young kids, right? So it's hard for me to relate. I think at like 12, that's a much trickier age, but it's a better age, I think, in a lot of ways because you can teach them to understand in a way that they can't when they're 4. My daughter's almost 4, and so she doesn't really understand the relationship with money. For me, it was about this idea that I just kind of saw the corporate world or working for other people and trading your time as similar to the allegory of like Plato's cave. Anyone's ever seen that? Where everyone's ever read that story? Where you're in a cave, right? And there's like people who are like basically chained up and like looking at the cave and they just see the shadows on the wall. But then as soon as like they realize that there's actually like a master outside, and as soon as they see the light, they can't look back. Once you see the idea that you don't have to trade your time for money the rest of your life, and that you can just do what you want with your life, that sells instantly. I have a 17-year-old cousin, and he's in love with this fire movement. He's like, I want to be like my cousin Mike. I just want to have properties, and I want to do what I want with my life. I think the piece that they have to understand is that it's a lot of work, a lot of delayed gratification and sacrifice to really have that reward, but the reward is so worth it. It's the idea that anyone can work for 5 to 7 years relatively intensely and never have to work the rest of their life because their passive income will provide enough that they can live on that forever, inflation adjusted. That's the idea of the FIRE movement, right? And so FIRE stands for, by the way, financial independence, retiring early. If anyone doesn't know that, I probably should have clarified that at the beginning. It's this amazing movement that started as the early retirement movement and then got recoined because a lot of the people who retire early end up working. We find things that we love to do, and those things tend to make us money. And so people consider that work. Even my YouTube channel, which makes me almost nothing, people consider that work because there are YouTubers that do it full time, right? But I think the idea behind good money management is really just the idea of being effective with your resources, right? It's the idea that you need to realize that there's a finite amount of this resource, your time, effectively. That's where it all starts, is your time. What do you want to do with it? And you could trade small amounts of your time forever in a job, like 40 hours a week, or you could and have the stuff that you don't need that doesn't make you happy, like the latest and greatest iPhone every single day, and the latest and greatest car, and the big house, and the lavish trips that you don't need. Or you can decide, I'm gonna go on like one trip, like one small trip, and I'm gonna live in like a normal little duplex. I'm gonna drive like a Ford Focus for a while, for a time. I'm gonna live like a student. And if you do that with any bit of intensity, which I mean working full time as well, then you kind of unlock financial independence. And so I guess it's the idea, to me, it's the idea that you can buy your freedom. That was what kind of sold me, was like, your freedom's for sale, and most people purchase it at 67. It takes their whole life working to finally earn that right to retire. And I'm here to say that you can do it in 5 years, 7 years, do it in 10 years, do it in 12 years. You decide how intense you want to be with your journey based on your savings rate. So if you can save half of your take-home income, either by increasing your income a bit or by decreasing your spending, both are within your full control, then within your own control, you should decide when you retire. And the math's actually dead simple. The hard part is convincing yourself that the delayed gratification or the small sacrifice, which sacrifice by definition means giving one thing up to have something else, right, that's better. If you can convince yourself of that, you'll be super successful, I think, from a money management perspective. Most people I know who are good with their money tend to understand that principle. But just showing them, I think, too, like just showing them how to, just showing them the value of the dollar. That'd be a good way to start, I think, when they're 9 or 12, right? It's like, hey, I worked really hard for this $20 here that you're about to spend at the movie theater. Maybe you should do some chores and you should earn that $20 yourself and see how much is associated with earning that money, right? I think, honestly, paid chores is a fantastic way to teach someone how to earn the value of the dollar, learn the value of the dollar. Good question. Okay, I see one over here in my blind spot.
Mike, I'm Mick.
Hi, Nick.
Mick is Mike.
Oh.
Your 3 keys of wealth, you probably have a YouTube video on this, but just a big fan of your 3 keys of wealth. On the last point, maximize returns. Do you have any tips or tricks for being like tax efficient?
That's a good question. I'm not a CPA or CA. I did, for a time, go down the CA path before I became the CPA path. I did about 6 months of that and then took a better paying job and didn't finish the CA. So I'm not a qualified tax accountant. Generally speaking, being tax efficient is important. We don't let the tax, they say in the tax world, we don't let the tax tail wag the dog. So don't make your decisions based on the tax ramifications. But like just to throw out some random tidbits, if you flip in a corp, you pay 14% tax. It's an active business. If you flip in your personal name, you don't even get capital gains tax. It's treated as regular business income at the top marginal bracket. So if you're going to flip real estate ever, or plan to hold real estate in a short amount of time, like a year or less, or 2 or 3 years, might make sense to do it in a corp.
Or buy and hold?
Okay, yeah, so with buy and hold, tax strategy, I guess when you talk about maximizing returns, right, there are lots of ways you can invest your money. You can invest it in lending, you can invest it in stocks, and you get like a dividend return. You can invest it in real estate, you get a fantastic return, which is why we're all here today, right? We realize the value of leverage, of other people's money, right? That's really how you maximize the return on your money, is you put up $1 and someone else puts up 4, and now you get $5 in real estate you control and get the return on that total asset for only $1 your own money put up. So that leverage is a fantastic way to maximize your returns. I know, like my grandparents and even like my parents are very of the mentality that paying off your mortgage is a good idea. The math doesn't support that. If your mortgage is less than 4% interest rate, you should never pay off your mortgage. In fact, you should refinance your property as soon as you can. My own personal residence, I refinance every so often to buy another property because I can borrow it at 4% and go get a 10% or 20% return on that money. So the difference is, based on risk tolerance, I guess, right? At the end of the day, you have to decide what is your risk tolerance level? If you're young, you might have a lot of time. If you were to lose a little money now, that's okay. But if you're at the end of your journey, you might be a little bit more risk averse. And risk is almost always commensurate to return. So the greater the risk, the greater you should expect in proportionate return. The lower the risk, the lower the level of return. There are things called arbitrage, right? Arbitrage is the idea that you can buy something and basically get it for less than what it's actually worth. So you could find an investment that's extremely low risk. I would argue like a 60% loan to value mortgage is fairly low risk, right? Like a 40% drop in the Canadian real estate market is highly unlikely, I think. There's got a video on that too. But you know, and you're getting a 10 or 12% return on your money at that level of risk, that's a great return, risk to reward, I think, right? So that's an example of being smart with your money. A lot of people have money in tax-free savings accounts at their bank making 2%. A lot of people have money sitting in their account in cash with credit cards that they're paying 26% interest on. A good way to maximize the return on your money is take that cash that's sitting there and pay off your credit card debt. That's 26% after-tax return. It's a great tax tip right there to pay off your high-interest debt, potentially. Every situation is different. You gotta do your numbers. But yeah, there's lots of cool tax strategies. I think real estate investing is a fantastic one because, again, you can depreciate buildings, which gives you some advantages, right? You can write things off, like if you keep a log of when you drive to your properties, you can write percentages of your car off, right? Your cell phone, you can write a percentage of that off too. All of those different expenses that you have, you can effectively write them off. And if you're smart about it, you can take your own personal mortgage and basically write that off too, right? Go use that as your down payment, right? Instead of using the cash that you have, now your mortgage is tax deductible. So that's another example. Always talk to your accountants and confirm with them. But those are some cool tax strategies I can think of as well. I'll give you one too that's kind of juicy. That was in the paper the other day, or a couple of years ago. You can earn $50,000 a year, completely tax-free, from Canadian eligible dividends per partner. So $100,000 a year, zero tax in Canada, from Canadian eligible companies, so publicly traded Canadian companies that are eligible for the dividend gross up tax credit. If you make income from no other source. So if your plan was to retire with $100,000 a year, you can put all your money in dividend structures, Canadian eligible companies that pay dividends, and you could be entirely tax-free in retirement. So it's a beautiful thing. In Canada, we have free healthcare, and you could be a multi-millionaire and pay no tax if you structured it smartly. So we actually live in a beautiful country. I'm really thankful to be here again. It's cool. I don't know if anyone has more questions. I see a couple back here. I don't know. Do I have time to keep going or should I? There's a light there.
I wanted to know more about your mansion that you purchased in Orlando. How was that structured? Did you have to come with all cash? Did you get financing in the U.S.? How was it a foreigner buying in the U.S.? And do you have any other properties in the U.S.?
Good questions. So the first one, I'm going to go in reverse order, I think. And if I forget one, just remind me. So the first one is basically what happened to their properties in the U.S. And the answer is no. I've been afraid to give the Canadian, I don't want to give my Canadian income up to the United States. I always get leery with that, which is why the structure I'm using now to kind of answer your question, how do I maneuver as a foreign individual? There are lots of ways to structure financing. TD Bank operates right in Florida. BMO Harris also operates, I believe, there as well. So there are Canadian banks that do operate and have a branch in the United States, and they offer 20% down, 80% loan to value. So there's some cool programs that exist that way. RBC also offers a Canadian U.S. mortgage effectively. I'm not a mortgage broker, so I don't want to speak to any more options beyond that, but I know that it is possible to finance and structure. The way I'm going to be expanding into the United States is I have a good friend and investor who can qualify for wherever they want in the United States, and probably I'll partner with people like that who can qualify really, really easily, and we'll joint venture. And that's the simplest, easiest way with probably and there's lots of tax structures. You can set up a U.S. C Corp and then have the ownership of that owned by a Canadian company, and then you wouldn't even have to file a personal tax return in the U.S., right? The companies would give you a layer of defense from a liability perspective, and obviously talk to your accountant and your lawyer and stuff about that to figure out the structure. But it's not as hairy and scary as I thought it was going to be. It's not something that's interesting. The returns, they're pretty good. I just want to spend my winters in Florida. So I want to be a snowbird at 27. So that was a big motivation for me to get me down there and give me something to do. That's just me. And the last, I think I missed one question. You had 3, right?
I don't know if I asked this, but did you need to renovate it, and are you now renting it out?
So we haven't closed on it yet. It's firm under contract, but yes, it needs renovation. This was a diamond in the rough. The pictures are like 2-3 years ago. There was a bit of a roof leak and some things that we have to remediate. It's been run on Airbnb and VRBO for a while, making $700-800 a night and things like that. But it's been run down a bit. So there is opportunity to theme it out and do it really well and get the revenue up, get the vacancy rate down effectively so you can get more profit. There's definitely opportunity for the property. I think the ARV or after renovated value is somewhere about $250,000 higher than I bought it for. So I think that I'm gonna get a nice lift of a couple $100,000 on that side too, which is impressive. I think compared to what I'm getting in London right now, because there's so much competition in London. I'm still finding good deals there, but again, Orlando, it's just some interesting opportunities in that segment of the market, and I'm all about finding niches and exploring those. Yes, but it's closed. I have 3 guys that live with me full time, and they work with me and I help them build fire.
Awesome. That's good.
Plans in the future to expand your mentoring?
I do a free live every single Wednesday on YouTube, and that's the big thing that I do, that I give away, live question and answer. So I just go on YouTube and chat with me every Wednesday. I give a lot away that way. On Instagram, if people DM me, I respond to every DM currently, and that was hard when I had some media articles going around the UK and stuff where I was getting dozens a day. But I try my best to respond to people in that way, but maybe in the future I'll write a book or something. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having me again.
So at the beginning of your presentation, you said that you didn't have any unique or specific skills or talents, but from listening to you talk, you are clearly very intelligent, and you're also a massive action taker. Now, a lot of the people in the room, we have some new members, they are maybe just getting started, and what things do you think that they should focus on that would really be skills or use of their time to really start moving them in the direction of being able to acquire real estate?
It's a great question. I still don't think I'm that special at the end of the day, but again, hard work is one of the biggest things you can do. If you're young right now, you're just getting started, you gotta develop high value or high income skills, right? And I think the most valuable skills are ones that align with your passion. So if you love talking to people, for instance, maybe you go around door to door and talk to people or develop relationships to uncover deals. If you get something under contract, even conditionally, and bring it to this meetup group, and it's a good enough deal, the money might be able to find you, right? Even if you don't have experience, you can partner with someone who has experience. I, for a while, used to do that. People bring me deals and I'd partner with them 50-50 and I'd coach them through the whole thing, just for free, right? So there's people out there who just want to help, want to learn. If you love crunching the numbers, maybe you focus on that, right? So find that thing that I think you're good at. Maybe you're a contractor background. Maybe it makes sense to partner up in that way and add that value. So bring value to the relationship, like you said at the start of this meeting. If you bring value to whatever it is that you're doing, and you focus on that skill that you're good at, and you niche down on that, people will, real respect's real. People see value, and I think that there's definitely something to that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I would like to answer questions?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Mike. One more time.